Today let's talk about air filters. What are the signs and symptoms that you have a dirty or blocked air filter? And today I'm going to be using this Toyota Hilux to give you as an example, which is a turbocharged 2.8 liter diesel. But some of the points that I'm going to give at the end are going to be for petrol engines, and that's whether it is naturally aspirated or it is a turbocharged engine. So first of all, let's start talking about what an air filter does. And obviously it's in the name. It filters the air that is supposed to go into your engine. Now the biggest problem that I've seen with air filters is that mechanics and DIY people like to make it look like it's very easy to just tap this filter on a wall or even against the tire of your car, and when you see some dust come out, you assume that your filter is clean enough for you to be able to reuse it inside your engine. But the problem with that is that these air filters have micro pores on the inside of the filter, and it's not as easy as just dusting these out and you get your performance back on your engine. Yes, there are some filters on the market that are cleanable and reusable, but you need to make sure that it is actually written on your packaging and it's clear that your air filter can be cleaned and is reusable. Otherwise, it's better you just go ahead and buy yourself a brand new filter to make sure that your car is working at its absolute peak performance. So then the big question, what are the signs and symptoms that you have a blocked air filter? So the first one, and this applies to whether it's a turbo diesel like this one or it's a diesel engine itself, is you're going to get a lot of black smoke in the back. If you remember in the video that we did about the mass airflow sensor, which is right here, if your mass airflow sensor is picking up that you have less air in the system, normally what your engine is going to do is compensate that with adding in more fuel. And what happens then is, since you have more fuel than there is air in the engine, you're going to get a lot of black smoke. There's a number of times that people come in with diesel cars like this one, whether it's a turbo or non-turbo, and the car is producing black smoke, and most people will attribute that to failing injectors or an injector pump. But for the most part, you find that sometimes it's just a really blocked air filter. And because mechanics like to do that thing where they try and just tap the filter on the ground and some dust comes out and they say, oh, the filter must be good, it's always best to put a brand new air filter, because you might assume that your injectors are failing or your injector pump is failing, but it's just a blocked air filter. Another sign and symptom that you might get is decreased power. Obviously, because your car is not getting enough air, and especially in a turbocharged car like this one, your turbocharger is going to be working extra hard trying to draw air through a blocked air filter, and if it doesn't manage to do that, you're going to get less power. And obviously both of these things that I've mentioned, because there's incomplete burning of fuel in the engine, will lead to a higher fuel consumption. Another very expensive problem that you might face is what is called turbo overspeeding. So obviously in a turbocharged engine like this one, your turbocharger is trying to supply as much boost pressure as possible, and if you have a blocked air filter, that could end up overworking the turbocharger, getting it to overspeed and giving you a turbocharger that will fail prematurely. If you have a turbocharger fighting a blocked air filter, there are some situations where you find that this thing collapses and you could have pieces of your air filter actually breaking off and ends up damaging your turbocharger. So just make sure that you're not using a very old, very dirty filter, because it can happen that pieces of your filter even start to break off and then end up giving you a very expensive repair on your turbocharger. So on a petrol engine, the symptoms that you might get are something like a hard start. So you go and try and turn your car on, and it takes a bit longer to start. And this is especially in situations where your engine has already been warmed up. So normally at cold start, the car will be able to start normally, but when your car warms up, you start to experience a hard start when you're trying to start your car, and that's basically because it's not getting enough air and there's more fuel that is being supplied. Normally when your car is cold and at cold start, you actually get the engine supplying more fuel than air, and that just allows the car to start up when it's cold. But you find that when your car is warmed up, it's supposed to be using less fuel, but because your air filter is blocked, you end up having more fuel being supplied and your car has a hard start. So that's one of the symptoms that you have a blocked air filter. Another thing you might notice on petrol engines is hesitations under acceleration, and that's obviously because your car is supplying more fuel than there's air that's coming in. So you will get some hesitation, and also you will experience some misfires on petrol engines if you have a blocked air filter. and that's obviously because your car is not able to balance the air that's coming in with the fuel that's being supplied, so you will get some misfires. When should you go ahead and get yourself a brand new air filter? You should get a new air filter obviously every time that you're doing an oil change on your regular service and maintenance, but also it's important to look at the conditions in which you have been driving. So for example, cars normally go for their oil change every 5,000 kilometers, but you may find that if you have been doing a lot of trips, you know, on dusty roads, you find that your air filter might get blocked much earlier than your oil change needs to be done. So it's also important to look at the conditions of driving that you're in and just be able to see if you might need to change your air filter earlier than you do your oil change. All right, that was just a quick video about air filters. I hope somebody learned something about air filters, and obviously if you want to have your car professionally checked, you can bring it down here to Tunex and also get all your air filters from our official part sponsor, which is Auto Drift. Support the brands that support Z Gear, then we can keep making this content that everybody just gets to learn and enjoy. So until the next one, I will see you guys, and drive safe.